everyone. We are here with your candidate for Muscatine City Council's 2nd Ward, Josiah Anderson. Hello, Josiah. Glad to have you with us.
Great to be here, Margaret.
We'll get right in on our first question. Why are you running for City Council?
I'm running for City Council because I believe that Muscatine has a lot of opportunities in front of it. And if we execute those opportunities well, the lives of our citizens will be that much better. All of the things that they want, that they've been asking for, will kind of fall into place if we handle these opportunities correctly.
Thank you. Many people aren't aware of all that City Council is responsible for. What do you feel is the most important thing for people to know about what City Council does?
I would think that the most important thing would be setting a tone, kind of setting an ideal of what we want the different departments in the city to accomplish and how we want them to go about doing that. The individual departments, I believe, work very well within the tones that are set by that. And so as long as we keep that tone or that guidelines that would be beneficial for growth, growth will be easy because the individual departments will do a good job of following that.
Thank you. What do you feel are the strengths of the current City Council?
I think that the current City Council has done a good job of starting the process. They have reached out to more than just themselves and more than just the departments within the city. They've reached out to the county, they've reached out to the state and found ways to start attacking the #1 problem in our city, which is housing. And so I think that is very commendable, and I am happy that they already got a ball rolling that is necessary and good for our city.
Thank you. Ensuring all citizens, regardless of resources, are part of the process is essential to a thriving community. What do you feel can be done better to ensure that all the people of Muscatine are part of the process? Are there any specific ways you feel you could engage the underrepresented portions of the population?
First thing we could do is shorten that question. Just kidding. I think that more transparency is a good thing, and more than just more transparency, because I don't think that people are trying to hide. I think that it's a matter of intentionally speaking about what we're doing. So not just being open so that if anybody asked a question, but to go out and sell the things that we are trying to accomplish so that people have a chance to hear it from us, to then talk about it with their neighbors. And then the questions that they bring to us will be a lot better, a lot more informed, and it will be an opportunity for them to speak up if they dissent, or even speak up and say, hey, good job, rather than just hoping that everybody's on the same page. Go out and intentionally put them on the same page.
Thank you. What do you think some of the weaknesses of the current City Council are?
I think that the previous question my answer kind of answered that, whereas it was, I feel like you could find the City Council people and that you could go ask them, but they weren't necessarily in the forefront of the vision of the city. And I think that in order to accomplish great things, you're going to need community participation. This isn't something that the City Council can do on their own. It is something that the city has to get behind and has to participate. And if there's not that forced engagement from the leadership, it won't come off. We won't accomplish half as much as we otherwise could have.
Thank you. Employee morale is critical to the success of any organization. How do you feel about the current state of employee morale given the tumultuous year 2021 has been, and what can be done to ensure employees feel valued?
I think that the morale is up to the individual directors within each department. And that stems from the city council starting it. Of course, you could easily turn that into a can of worms if you wanted to, which we don't. And so I think that for the most part, the city employees that I have engaged with went through the same processes as everybody else has in our world. And so yes, it was tumultuous, but I don't think that it's any better or worse than the rest of the world. And I think that we need to continue with dialogue, continue with conversations, and they should be having those with the HR people and or their direct supervisors, so that if there is something that needs to be addressed, then they can go through the proper channels to start the process and hopefully come out feeling valued, because we do value them. We can't be a city without them. It won't work.
Thank you. What is one thing that voters may not know about you that you would like them to know?
I think that one of the big things is I'm a landlord. Most people would already know that. I'm also a realtor, but I've been a renter. I have, in fact, I was even homeless for a time, and many people don't know that. I have seen a lot of the different sides of life, and I would just say that I have experience within most of them, some good and some bad, same as everybody else.
Thank you. Thank you, Josiah, for your time today and for offering your time and energy to serve Muscatine.
My pleasure.
Hello, everyone. We are here with your candidate for Muscatine City Council, Alyson Glynn. Hello, Allie. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll get right into our first question. Why are you running for City Council?
Oh, that's always a good question. So I always relate it back to when I was young, because my grandmother was in City Council for many, many, many long years. And then she ran for mayor, and she was a mayor for 2 terms. And so many of my youngest memories was actually roaming the halls of City Hall. And so it just kind of reinforced to me when I was young that even municipal elections and the offices that people hold, then you can make a big difference. And so as I grew older, it just became something that was kind of ingrained in me. So I did a lot of volunteer work. I volunteered, 40 hours a week all throughout my teenager and young adult life. That continues now, but of course I'm kind of more in the background. And so when I moved from near Grant School to over into West 3rd this summer, I was approached by someone and they said, City Council is having an office open in your area. And I said, oh my goodness, I have to try. So I'm trying, and I would like to make a difference. And I think this is one of those avenues that makes a really big impact on a local level.
Thank you. Many people aren't aware of all that City Council is responsible for. What do you feel is the most important thing for people to know about what City Council does?
So I believe that this is one of those answers that not a lot of people know what the City Council does. And I encourage people at all times to do their research, find out what your officers do in your the city administrator, your mayor, your councilman, your board of supervisors, everybody. So the City Council themselves, I think that one of the most important things that they do for us on a local level is budgeting and prioritizing the projects within Muscatine. I believe that that's one of the most important things. So I don't think that a lot of people know that they have to follow, of course, federal mandates, and they have to really think hard about what is the priority at that time of the year. So I would like people to understand a little bit better. So not only is that one of their biggest objectives that I think is kind of sometimes the hardest objective, but also something that I think that they could communicate better to the community. Kind of, why is this happening? Why is it happening now? Why not something else that the citizens might think are more important? And so I think that those are the things that the city council really need to focus on and that are very important.
Thank you. What do you feel are the strengths of the current city council?
So this current city council, I might not agree with everything that they do, but I do think that they are doing a good job. Back when, I was younger, it was kind of, I wouldn't say cliquey, but it was male dominated. It was kind of later on in their years, if you will. And so one of the things that I see happening more is that they're getting more diversity. They're really reaching out to their community and getting feedback. Whether or not the majority of the community agrees with everything that they do, I'm not a foreseer. I can't really tell if that's something that's true, but I see that it's making a big difference and that they actually care. And so I think that, especially with the people that are on the ballot and the people who are currently in office, I think that they care. And I think that they're listening. And I think that there's, like I said, a bigger diversity compared to what it was when I was younger and exposed to that back then. So I think that's something that the city council is doing very well right now. Of course, there's room for improvement, but there's always room for improvement.
Thank you. What do you feel are the weaknesses of the current city council?
So one of the weaknesses that I foresee, and this is one of the reasons that I'm actually running, that I would consider it my platform, if you will, is they don't necessarily balance the things that I think are the three primary support pillars of the community. And of course, as I've always said, that's the community, the economy, and the environment. So those three things. I think that you need to have a very healthy balance of all three of them, and you need to look into the future. So say, for instance, the comprehensive plan that's coming up and that we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking at the environmental aspects of that for sure. That's one of my passions. But at the same time, I understand that we can't always have hybrid vehicles and eco-friendly vehicles if the economy doesn't really support that, or if we don't have the community support for it either. So those three things need to be balanced. And I don't really foresee that happening anytime in the future unless we really push for it now. And I think that that is one of the biggest weaknesses of our current city council, is not necessarily looking as far into the future as I would like personally, but also there isn't necessarily a balance between those three things that really need to happen in order to make us thrive.
Ensuring all citizens, regardless of resources, are part of the process is essential to a thriving community. What do you feel can be done better to ensure that all the people of Muscatine are part of the process? And are there specific ways you feel you can engage the underrepresented portions of the population?
Oh, that's a good question. And I have viewpoints on that. So I do think that there is very underrepresented populations in the community. Unfortunately, there's no one way to reach out to everybody. Now, whether or not that's mailings, because some people don't have access to technology, whether or not it's in-person visits, because some people, either they need translators or something's happening where they need a little bit more help with mental comprehension or something like that. Whether or not it's, I know that the City Hall, I believe, have interpreters that actually translate things into Spanish or French or whatever languages it might need to be. So there's not a really one good answer to that, but I think that there are such a wide variety of resources out there currently that we could use. I know, say for instance, the the school system uses like the virtual backpack, but then if you request it, they can also have the paper copies sent home. So we should kind of take inspiration from those things of using every avenue possible in order to get that out there. Now, I know that you can have, say, for instance, satellite offices when you go to vote. If we had one and we had an available interpreter there for people to come, and so that they could understand the ballot system a little bit better and understand the forms of ID and things. So, like I said, there's not one good answer, but if you research it and you take advantage of those resources, you can really tackle it from all sides.
Employee morale is critical to the success of any organization. How do you feel about the current state of employee morale, given the tumultuous year 2021 has been, and what can be done to ensure employees feel valued?
One absolute prime way to do this, and I don't think it's just for employees, I think it's for everybody, is simply to listen. Listen to them. If they have a problem, if they have a concern, if they have somebody that they want to praise and say, hey, they're doing amazingly, can we please have more of this? Listen, whether or not it's through emails or texts or turning in anonymous papers, it doesn't matter how they do it, but listen. And I think that that's one way, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's an employee or who it is, that you can make sure that they feel valued and that they feel like you know who they are and you're listening to them. So I do think that the very simplest way to answer that is to listen to them. And when you listen, take those ideas, take those concerns, and turn them into action, whether or not it's something very simple like, oh, a pizza party for the office, or saying, you know, maybe, especially with the mask mandate debacle going on right now, the huge debates going back and forth in all different avenues, listening to what they have to say and, you know, voting on it with true representation, those kinds of things. It's 100% human nature. You get down to it and people just want to be heard.
What is one thing that voters may not know about you that you would like them to know?
Oh my goodness. There's lots of things people don't know about me. I think one thing that people don't know about me is that, especially when I'm out with my children or I'm at a football game or I'm out volunteering or whatever the thing is, I'm a little bit of a goofball. I'm a little bit of the comic relief, and I like to do things and to have fun. But at the same time, I do a lot of things behind the scenes. I do a lot of things either on a local level, a government level. I've been everywhere from, you know, Seattle to Capitol Hill, all the way down working for Disney in Florida. And it's always interesting that people are so surprised. They're like, oh, you do grant writing? Like, yeah, I do grant writing. I help out nonprofits, you know, things like that. Or, oh, you work with the Scouts? Like, yes, I do. I do the camp director, all these things. So I always get a little chuckle out of it. And I like for people to know these things because I believe council members, I believe your school board, everybody, they should be in touch and they should really have that exposure to all these different avenues of things and yet still be able to have a sense of humor. And so I think if you get down to it, the one thing that I would like people to know about me is that, yeah, I have a sense of humor and I'm a little bit of a goofball sometimes because you should be. Life is fun. Have fun with it. But when the serious work needs to be serious, get down to the nitty gritty and put the work in. So I think that's what I like people to know.
Well, thank you, Allie, for your time today and for offering your time and energy to serve Muscatine.
Thank you. It'll be fun.
Hello, everyone. We are here with your candidate for Muscatine City Council's 2nd Ward, Jeff Osborne. Hello, Jeff. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
We'll get right into our first question. Why are you running for City Council?
I'm running for City Council because I have the experience to do a good job for the City of Muscatine. I have studied all the issues. I've been to council meetings for the last 7 years, and I just think I can do a wonderful job for the City of Muscatine.
Thank you. Many people aren't aware of all that City Council is responsible for. What do you feel is the most important thing for people to know about what City Council does?
I think the most important thing that City Council does is represent folks, listen to what they have to say, represent what they want to have done with the city, and just be available. What we do in the meetings is vote on the budget. It starts in January, February, right away. After being sworn in, and that budget sets the tone for the rest of the year. It sets the way to set goals. Things like if we want to rebuild a road, if it's not in the budget, it doesn't happen that year. The city provides protection for fire, police, and those things end up in the budget. That starts the year. Throughout the year, there's things, there's important things coming up with the pit bull bans, chickens. It just ranges the gamut. It was a multi-million-dollar city, over 20,000 residents, and we talk everything from that to chickens. So,
Thank you. What do you feel are the strengths of the current City Council?
Oh, I think the strengths are they're doing a real good job to listening to people. I kind of have been watching the council, even when somebody might not like the outcome of the vote, especially when it's a contested issue. Somebody has a dog, and the council votes one way or the other against what's going on that way. I do really think they're handling those issues really well, and folks are being heard.
Thank you. What do you feel are the weaknesses of the current City Council?
I think the weaknesses of the current City Council is there isn't anyone on council today. There's some that have had prior experiences and stuff, but they're getting fairly far removed. I call it skin in the game. What I bring to the table is, my wife and I are small business owners in town. We're restoring 2 historic properties. We've been on the customer side of the city for a long time. And getting everything from permits to try and do things like Second Saturday downtown for 4 years. Just trying to live life and provide something for the city. And a lot of the current council members don't necessarily have those personal investments in the city outside of they live here and they're serving on council, which is certainly a good service.
Ensuring all citizens, regardless of resources, are part of the process is essential to a thriving community. What do you feel can be done to better ensure that all the people of Muscatine are part of the process? And are there specific ways you feel you can engage underrepresented portions of the population?
Okay. Well, I think Second Ward, that's the seat I'm running for. First of all, the structure. It is set up so that each area has about the same proportion of population in each area. Second Ward represents a fairly economically diverse group of people. We've got folks that live in very large historic homes. We've got folks that rent. We've got grandparents. We've got grandkids. We've got, so Second Ward is kind of a microcosm of Muscatine. And I'll just speak for Second Ward because that's the seat I'm running for. First of all, the structure to make sure everybody is being represented is we have a council member from each ward, and we need to make sure we're accessible to the folks we serve. There's also 2 at-large council people that serve the whole board, and then of course there's the mayor. And there's just a lot of contact there. How would I do it personally? I've been administering a Facebook page for quite a while. We've got about over 5,000 followers on it. That gets a fairly diverse segment of the population. During this campaign, I've been knocking on just about every door in the community, in the Second Ward community, and talking to folks. I do think things, there, even just within this ward, there's a lot of diversity, because you get south of 8th Street and it's housing, and you get north of 8th Street and it's pit bulls, and the things that people ask questions about the most. And so I'm just being available.
Employee morale is critical to the success of any organization. How do you feel about the current state of employee morale given the tumultuous year 2021 has been, and what can be done to ensure employees feel valued?
City employees, I'm assuming. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster, I would imagine. I've walked in those shoes. I've been party to, where decisions are made at the higher levels of a manufacturing facility, for example, and that manufacturing facility gets closed down and moved elsewhere, and it's a little different than what's been going on with the city, but change happens, in leadership, and then the direction changes, and that can make people feel fairly unnerved and not knowing where we're going. I do think the city is struggling a bit right now with its direction. Do we want to grow? Do we want to be a tourist type community? Do we want to do we want to stay a quiet little river town? I hear all of that from the folks in Second Ward. That they all want different things, and so there's what I bring to the table is we in those situations, that's we need to work on our vision. What overriding compelling need is out there that everybody can rally behind, and once we get that, I think we can move forward.
What is one thing that the voters may not know about you that you would like them to know?
I guess a nice piece of trivia that I haven't shared much. We've moved, my family and I moved with my prior employer about 7 times in 20 years. All of those locations have been on either side of the Mississippi River. We've lived in every state up and down the Mississippi River. We know river towns. We know we've lived in many of them. And when we have always lived along the river, we've visited the ones around us. I think Muscatine is a top 3 for its accessibility from the river to the restaurant or nightlife or shops. Most of the cities along the Mississippi River have been greatly impacted by flooding, and most of the reactions have been to either tear down the buildings so that the everything is at least half a mile away from the river, good 15-20 minute walk, or a taxi ride, so and Muscatine has 2 blocks. We have the geography that fits very well, and we're not severely impacted by flooding, and I think we're top 3 for that reason.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for your time today and for offering your time and energy to serve Muscatine.
Thanks.